Welcome back to our last segment of Civil Discourse Now. I'm Mark Small.
And I'm Paul Ogden.
We are live streaming on Ustream from Indianapolis, Indiana. This is May 12, 2012. Our guests are Anthony Simons, Pike Township GOP Ward Chairman, Anthony, and Jeff Cox, who's an attorney and a blogger, and the blog is?
No Boxes Allowed.
There we go. We're discussing marriage equality, same-sex marriage. There are different terms to describe it. One aspect of it that we haven't discussed and wanted to get it into in this last segment is the incredibly high correlation between fundamentalist Christianity and embracing bans on gay marriage.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say it's all fundamentalist Christian. I mean, Catholics are not fundamentalist Christian.
I didn't say all. I said
right.
I said that there is an incredibly high correlation.
Yeah.
That's not all.
Correct. I talked to representative of the Indiana Family Institute. We talked a little bit about this issue, and he brought up one issue that would be of major concern to me, and it might be a concern to our other panelists. What happens when you have, for example, a law saying that employers have to provide certain benefits to married couples? Then you have an institution like Catholic Church, Mormon Church, a lot of churches that have hospitals, they have schools. Are they going to be required now to provide health care or provide these benefits to same-sex couples, even though it is against their beliefs? And I think you have to make an exception to that. And the representative pointed out is that they won't make an exception to that. And we got into talking about the contraception debate, which we had off camera, and I think that would be a major concern to me. I mean, I don't know if that's a reason to have, the ban on same-sex marriage, but I would be very concerned if they intruded on religious beliefs.
I think that's a distraction.
And I think there's an easy way around it. You have single-payer health. We have single-payer health.
Your answer is always socialism.
Socialism. If you have single-payer health, you don't have to worry about whether somebody's married or not. They have health care. Okay? But if you want to address it on that basis, that they have moral compunctions against that, then open up any kind of a moral view, and people are going to have compunctions against providing certain things.
I still want to go back to that basic question that I asked, and that I think explains why you have younger people supporting gay marriage. And that is, who's hurt by it? I've seen the evangelical fundamentalist Christian view and say we must protect traditional marriage, it cheapens marriage, blah, blah, blah. Who is hurt? How does two men getting married hurt anyone else?
And I would contend, kind of as I was talking about in the last segment, who it hurts is, I would think it hurts them. Because if we're sanctioning, if the government is enshrining this into law and saying that gay marriage is acceptable, then that means it is implying that the government is accepting that type of behavior. And if we are encouraging that behavior, a behavior that actually creates, I think, public health concerns for those people, I think in the long run, in the long term, that's who it hurts.
But it doesn't. Does it hurt anyone besides those people?
Besides those people, you can make an argument it hurts if it goes into adoption or kids. It could hurt those if it goes down the slippery slope argument of gay adoptions. I mean, when we talk about slippery slope, going back to that, I mean, where does it stop? I mean, are we going to now say polygamy? Because you can use the same arguments you use for gay marriage.
No, you can't.
You can use for polygamy because all it requires is consenting. Consenting adults. The love is there.
No. In fact,
actually, it doesn't.
In nearly every polygamous situation, any subsect of society where it's practiced, it's really not consent. The marriages are arranged. It's women marrying one man. They have very few rights. That's not consensual. And in the Mormon example, that's horrendously non-consensual. these
Are
girls. These
Are you going to go into each relationship and find out whether it's
Well,
consensual?
it's also
or not? I don't know.
it has
They do
to
that.
it has to do with an equal partnership. Marriages are supposed to be equal. They're supposed to be equal partnerships. Now they might be equal on different dimensions, but they're going to be equal partnerships. You cannot have an equal partnership in a polygamous relationship. If you have one man married to 3 women, it's not 50-50. It would be he's in.
5, 7.
Well,
I'm not
it's
sure what the
thirds.
percent
You know,
is.
if it was 3 people,
Yeah.
you divide it into thirds.
But they're not. No, they're not
Equal-
married.
equal thirds.
They're not married to each other. They're married to the man.
yes.
Okay, but I'm talking about marriage between like the 3 of them. I mean, like the woman.
They don't do that.
No. It's not like Triad by David Crosby. Why don't we go on as 3?
But why not have that? You know?
But they don't do that.
That's not traditionally how it's being. That's not how it's being practiced. And so I don't think that's realistic that anybody's saying, hey, let's get polygamy or let's have bestiality. Nobody's seriously arguing that except as red herrings. Let's get back to the 2 points we were talking about. One is the health point, and I think that I had addressed that the cause of the health problems is the fact that there's such a stigma to same-gender relationships. And so I think that there are stressors on that, and that causes those problems. But going to the religious aspect of it, at that point, you have to look at history and how long have gay relationships been recognized by different societies in history. And those societies would predate Christianity, because Christianity didn't always exist, Anthony. I'm sorry, it wasn't there. It kind of arose and was created.
Well, it was from the Old Testament, from Adam and Eve.
And actually, and the Old Testament came up at one point, and there are things that predate that. We had
That's a whole other argument.
That's another
That's
show.
a whole other show.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think the big reason Christianity opposes homosexuality is because it was in the Bible. And my take on that is that the Bible opposed homosexual conduct because, number one, it was often done in worship of the pagan gods. And number two, the people who did it were often, they forced others to do it unwillingly, hence Sodom and Gomorrah. But third, it's because they wanted Christians to populate the world. They wanted more children. And so they could populate Canaan and drive out the Canaanites. They wanted more Christians in the world, and homosexual conduct is not going to produce children. So that's the big reason.
So it's an economic argument for heterosexuality.
Well, it's not only economic, but it's just demographic. Religion can't survive unless it has adherents. You need to produce more adherents.
But biblically, I mean, if you were going to go into biblical arguments here, I mean, Paul says that, the Apostle Paul said we should not exchange natural acts for unnatural acts. And I think when we look at unnatural acts, it's not meant. God did not mean for that to have 2 guys go together with a guy. I mean, God did not make Adam and Steve or Adam and Eve. Because you look at just how do I know? When you look at nature, look at the anatomy.
Animals
how
do
it's
it.
supposed to go together. With
They have homosexual animals.
Well, but there's people can be born with homosexual inclinations possibly, but doesn't necessarily mean you act on those inclinations.
I'm trying to find out where it is in the Constitution that we're supposed to refer to the Bible as controlling what our laws are for marriage.
Well, that's why in the last segment I wanted to approach the argument using non-religious arguments, because I realize that some people are not religious, and when we try to persuade people to come to our side, a religious argument is not going to work on them. And so that's why I think it's important to use non-religious type of arguments. Yeah, of course,
And you're right.
Yeah, and of course within the Christian religion, I mean Christians who are taught in our faith that it is wrong, it is a sin. I think naturally a lot of them. That's why me included. I would vote for a ban on that type of behavior as far as enshrining that into law.
And 2 points on that. One, I'm an atheist. But 2, a person with whom I went to high school in near Kokomo is heterosexual. He's a minister in Austin, Texas. He's very, very advocates for gay, lesbian, transsexual rights was devastated last week when, like, the Methodist Conference annual conference rejected a stand accepting gays on an equal basis within the church. I don't know what the exact wording of the referendum was or whatever before the assembly, but there are people who are Christian who would reject your view that of the biblical interpretation, and that gets into individuals' particular religious views. And so we go back, and I'm not trying to go back to the start of the show and say, let's go back to the beginning, but we look at what the elements are of marriage. And nowhere in there, none of the elements under the statute in the state of Indiana does it say that the two individuals are required to express that they love each other. And that's not in there. And I think
how would you determine that then?
Well, that's the whole thing. If 10,000 years of human poets and artists haven't been able to adequately define it, I doubt that the Indiana General Assembly could do it.
So you're back to the libertarian position of no law.
No, I'm saying that marriage serves a function that is better. I mean, is more channeled when you have children, when you have property, and it has more to do with divorce than it has to do with the marriage itself. I think marriage can exist with two people vowing their love and devotion to one another. I think that society recognizes that the relationship is sanctified in some way by two people entering into formal marriage through the law, and I think that's important. I'm married. Sarah's over there, she runs the tech on the program. She's our technical director. She's got a ring. It's not a matching ring. We've got different rings. Okay? And Anthony's arguing for traditional marriage.
But I'm not married, but I am looking. So if there's any single ladies out there, give me a call, let me know, contact the host.
But I think that there are important aspects to consider that we should put just basic premises in there. They have to be people have to be a certain age. They have to consent. They cannot already be married, so we don't have polygamy. And the gender in there just doesn't make any sense. And especially with the changing society that we have now, I think and I think it was a smart move that President Obama made, because it's going to solidify his base, the younger people who came out so greatly in support of him in 2008, who might not be able to vote because they're being disenfranchised by Republican legislatures.
But I mean, I would argue that even if it somehow, and we're seeing the trends going as it is, and somehow everything gets overturned and we have gay marriage totally within this country, just because they have it doesn't make it right, I would contend. I mean, even though we have even if a majority goes for it, I still think it would be wrong.
Just because they have the designated hitter rule in the American League doesn't mean that I think that it's right.
It's definitely not right.
We agree on that.
No designated hitter rule.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure and fun this week. We've discussed the very important issue that's facing the country today. Next week, we're going to talk about bullying. And
are you still looking for a pro-bullying guest?
If anybody out there is pro-bullying, contact us, marksmall2001 I will be glad to, or look me up on Facebook. I would love to have you on, just, because we're trying to find somebody who's pro-bullying.
Great.
Paul, any last words?
No last words, Mark.
Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Join us again next week, Civil Discourse Now. Thank you.